A vision of the future where holy computers are passed down to generations in order to maintain their Bitcoin holdings. The futurism of Robin blew my mind, and I ate it all the way down to Spaghetti Town. Here's Robin. Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. So if you are new to Bitcoin, we want to chat about sats with you. Head to satchats.com to grab your slot in the studio today. I'm your host, Stewart, Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from my Bitcoin laser eyes.
And I'm your co-host, Chris, founder and CEO of Ithaca Hummus, proud multi-coiner and Bitcoin smash buyer. Just like I smash buy Bitcoin, we would absolutely love it if you went to YouTube and smashed that subscribe button, hit us with a like, give us some comments. I have to say, since we've been running this Million Sats giveaway contest, our subscribers are like, going nuts.
They know what's up.
It's great to see.
They're like, 1 million sats, boop, subscribe.
Yeah. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, we are giving away 1 million sats to one randomly selected subscriber once we hit 1,000 subscribers. We'll also be starting a live show on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. So hit the subscribe button. Help us get to that 1000.
Yep. Okay.
999 plus one, as Stewart likes to say.
Exactly. So today we have got Robin. Robin is a professor of economics at George Mason University. He's also got a background in computer science. So everybody get out your textbooks. Make sure you've got all the correct logins to figure out where your homework has been posted. And we are going to be jumping in with Robin. Now, Robin, before we do, help our satillionaires out there get to know you a little bit.
Hi, everyone. I'm an economics professor. But a long time ago, I started out in college in engineering. I switched to physics. I went to grad school in philosophy of science, then went to physics, and then did 9 years of computer research at Lockheed and NASA. And I finally had these ideas for institution changes, so I went back to grad school at Caltech and did a health policy postdoc after getting my PhD at Caltech in social science. And then I got my tenure track position here at George Mason University 26 years ago.
Whoa.
So I'm kind of old. And along this time, one of my big things has been institutional changes, how we can make the world different. And long ago, when I was back in Silicon Valley doing this AI jobs, I hung out with lots of other tech futurist types, including Tim May and Hal Finney and Nick Szabo.
Whoa.
Who at the time were talking about crypto, and I was not that interested in it at the time. But I was exposed right then to those people in that initial incubator.
Wow. Okay. I think we're probably locked in for another number 16 miles over here. So Robin completed 912 years of school is what it sounds like, and has 44 to 47 PhDs. Spent some time with Hal Finney and Nick Szabo. Dang.
Unreal.
This is some OG action over here. So I guess the burning question for our satillionaires, or maybe the burning assumption is, okay, here's a fellow who has spent a lot of time studying economics, computer science, has rubbed elbows with some of the Bitcoin greats, some of the cypherpunk greats. Surely he must be a Bitcoin maxi.
So I've
What's
invested
the
a lot
deal?
of my life in pursuing big ideas, and I'm happy to support other people with their other big ideas. But unless I really know the details of their big ideas, I'm not necessarily going to go all in on everybody's big idea. So I understood that there was this niche for electronic money, and that eventually might be filled, and that my friends were pursuing it. And then early on, when Bitcoin was growing, I said, okay, there's a kind of electronic money, good for them. But I didn't necessarily believe that the market price was wrong in terms of its chances for growth. That is, I never jumped in as a speculator. So I speculate in the sense of investing my time in various big ideas, and I'm happy to tell you about some of my big ideas, which are now being implemented in crypto, by the way. So my lifetime best idea is now being pursued by several crypto companies, and they're going to try it out and see if it works. So in that way, I'm invested in crypto, but I see, buying a coin as a speculative bet on the future value of that coin. And if I didn't think that I knew better than the market what the future prospects for coins would be, I wasn't going to speculate. So I think this is a key thing many economists see, which is there's investing on average in everything, and then there's betting on particular things. So if you're going to bet on a particular thing relative to everything on average, you should think that you know better than average about that thing. You should think you have an insight into that thing better than all the other people who are trading. Otherwise, you're the fool. So there's this old saying in poker: you sit down at a poker table, look around the table, find the fool. Because that's who you'll be winning against. If you can't find the fool at the table, it's you, walk away. And that's a good attitude to have about financial speculation. You need to think you know better, and that there are fools there that you can even identify. That was one of the messages in The Big Short. These people were going to make The Big Short on the 2008 collapse. They had to go find the fools. They finally went to a conference. They said, these are the fools. Okay, we are now set. We're going to bet against these guys. So So for crypto, I would have to believe that I know better than average that these things are going to work out and how well they're going to work out. And that's the thing I never felt very confident of, that I knew better. So I've consulted over the years for crypto companies, and they've given me coin as a result of that consulting. And I've typically just sold it as fast as I could because I didn't have confidence that I knew those coins would on average do better. And I think that those were, in retrospect, those were wise moves.
What is this lifetime big idea?
All right. So we are in a world where people have to figure out what they think about things to do things. And we often do that badly. That is, we often badly collect what different people do or could know into some summary judgment about what we together know to make decisions. And so betting markets are a surprisingly powerful mechanism for doing that. And so 35 years ago, I started thinking about how to use betting markets to do those things. But then 25 years ago, now I guess almost 26 years ago now, I realized that the most important application of that was governance, i.e. how a group of people who are trying to govern some organization, how do they collect what they know together in order to make key organizational decisions, and that you could use betting markets for that too. And that was the most promising application of betting markets collecting information, was to advise decisions. And I called those decision markets. And I tested them out in simple ways in board games and some field experiments, and wrote a lot about that. And that mostly sat dormant up until the last few years, where crypto companies have finally started to experiment with this way to use betting markets for governance. So let me show you the idea in a concrete example. A company, say, one of their biggest decisions is whether to keep the CEO or get rid of the CEO. That's a key decision the board needs to make. And today the board has to sit and discuss it and, make a decision. And they don't necessarily do a great job aggregating all the relevant information there to figure out what to do. Most public companies have a stock price. And we might say, well, what they should do is make this decision to make the stock price higher. That is, that should be the outcome they care about when trying to decide whether to keep the CEO. Keep the CEO if the stock price is going to be higher with the CEO. Now, an ordinary stock market trades, say, stock for cash. And when you're betting in that market, what you're supposed to do is look at the current price and compare that to your estimate of the value of the company. And that estimate should be, take all the situations the companies could be in. For each situation, ask, what's the chance of that? And how much is the company worth in that situation? And then average those together to get your average value of the company and compare that to the price. If the company's worth more than the price, buy. If the company's worth less than the price, sell. That's what you do in an ordinary stock market. But it turns out you can make conditional markets. That is, markets which are called off if a condition isn't met, and then you can get conditional prices, including how much is the stock worth if the CEO stays, and how much is the stock worth if the CEO leaves. With conditional prices, you can just directly ask the market, should we keep the CEO? And they will directly give you an answer, the expected value of the company if the CEO stays and if the CEO leaves. And so the way to get those conditional prices is through conditional markets. Either you have trades that are called off if a certain condition isn't met, or you can have conditional assets on both sides where the assets themselves disappear if a condition isn't met. Either way, you get conditional prices. That's this example of governance. So here, what we needed for this is we needed an outcome measure, in this case, the stock price. That's the outcome we want to make the decision to maximize. And next, we need discrete options. Keep the CEO, dump the CEO. Discrete options, you'll be able to tell later which one you picked. With discrete options and an outcome measure, you can ask the markets for outcomes conditioned on each of the options. And that's the betting market mechanism for making organizational and personal decisions. And that's my lifetime best idea. And that's something I wrote about in 1999 with the slogan, vote on values, bet on beliefs. But now in the last couple of years, we've got a number of crypto companies, particularly MetaDAO, which has been making its key organizational decisions using that. There's also a secretive India-based healthcare agency that's been making, government agency that's been making decisions for a couple of years using this. That's my lifetime best idea. And crypto gets credit for being willing to try unusual ideas like this. And that's one of the things I want to celebrate the world of crypto for. They do interesting things with their money.
So let me see if I got this right, Robin. The nature of many different people betting on the outcome of something, for example, a sports game or an election, you always hear about the Las Vegas odds for this president winning or that candidate winning, for sports games as well. It's almost like, yes, it is people that are incentivized to make their opinion known because they're trying to get some cash as a result. But it's effectively a way to think collectively, or maybe even seek some type of data-driven group conscience, because so many individuals are weighing in on what they think is going to happen. So if you take this group gambling, collective betting type, if you just take that kind of amorphous, multi-human, phenomenon, you could apply it to the world of making decisions, not just betting on the outcomes of things, but hey, we need to make a decision as a company whether or not to keep our CEO, or potentially even we need to make a decision about whether to add a new product to our company or whether to take one away or whether to release it sooner or later. And you could effectively have people weigh in on that. And that is a more, I guess, hedged way of choosing how to govern yourself as a company.
Right. The world of crypto is full of prices. So if you guys are celebrating the world of crypto, you're celebrating a world full of prices. And every price in the world of crypto represents thousands, typically, of people who make judgments about what that price should be and then are buying or selling based on those judgments. And that, in effect, makes those prices embody insight and information from thousands of people, which is why they deserve respect. Which is why you shouldn't be too quick to judge that you know better than the price. You have to think, I'm going up against all these other people who know a lot, who have a lot of money, who have researched this a lot. I shouldn't bet against them unless I think I'm world class. I'm as good as the best of the rest of them. And that's why I deserve to be in this game, competing with them, speaking my mind contrary to theirs. So that's this power of markets.
Robin, do you feel like Bitcoin is a speculative phenomenon or hard money?
Bitcoin is a money whose price has fluctuated pretty dramatically ever since its beginning. So as a money holder, you have to consider that fluctuation in your strategy of how much of different kinds of money to hold. So you would be a fool to ignore that fact in your holding strategy. Much of the promise of crypto is realized in Bitcoin. I have to accept that. That is, once Bitcoin showed up, it was this powerful technology that achieved pretty immediately some of its key functions. It became a store of value and a means of exchange. And then people generated a bunch more hopes for what more crypto could do. And most of the rest of crypto is trying to pursue those other hopes of other things crypto could do besides just being a store of value and a medium of exchange. And to a certain extent, those other hopes haven't been very realized. The hopes that Bitcoin achieved right from the beginning are still there, and they're solid. They're going to last. The other hopes are more speculative, and at the moment, I can't have enormous confidence that they'll actually succeed. The investing in the other coins is more of a speculation on these other hopes of other things you could do with crypto. And it's not crazy. They are reasonable things to hope you could do with crypto. But again, so far, we haven't actually achieved that much with the rest of crypto. So that's a way in which I'm happy to say Bitcoin is great because it's the initial crypto that, in fact, directly and immediately achieved two of the main ends that people want from crypto, and that it's just a bet on continuing with that. That is, if you think the rest of the hopes are going to be dashed, we're not going to do that much more with crypto besides store of value, medium of exchange. Well, then you want to hold crypto, you want to hold Bitcoin, right?
So let's lock that one in for our satillionaires. Robin, professor of economics, and remember, not 912 years were spent in the book stacks. He's saying that Bitcoin delivered on the promise of store of value and on medium of exchange, which I love dearly because so many of our beginners struggle with Bitcoin as a medium of exchange because they can't use it at their grocery store just yet. But from a philosophical perspective, those two items are there. I would also argue that it functions as a unit of account. But a great way to distinguish Bitcoin from crypto is the concept of crypto being our hopes and dreams for pushing beyond the basic functionality of Bitcoin. And when you study the history of money and recognize which properties make for good money, my personal belief is you don't need to go beyond Bitcoin because it already does those things. I'm not interested in a cryptocurrency that might be able to replicate what Bitcoin does, maybe a little bit faster or a little bit more privately, or have some, functionality built in to send it to a predestined space upon certain conditions being met. I'm just trying to store my hard-earned value somewhere where it's not going to melt away before I use it. So I really like your distinction between Bitcoin and crypto in that way. So can you tell us a little bit more about your experience with Hal Finney, Nick Szabo, and you said one other fellow, I didn't even recognize his name.
Tim May was
May.
the origin of what he called cypherpunks movement. He did a cypherpunks manifesto. And at the time, he got a lot more attention than Nick Szabo or Hal Finney, actually. But, this is how history goes. We remember different people from the time than people got attention at the time.
So what was that like with them? What was your experience?
So this was Silicon Valley in the late 80s, early 90s. And this was a world that wasn't on top of the world yet. So Silicon Valley as on top of the world, the king of tech, where people from top schools want to go there and get jobs and, they run the world, right? That's not the Silicon Valley of the late 80s and the early 90s. They were known for like making chips and making some tech, but they weren't in running the world, and they weren't woke or full of, top school graduates and all their political ambitions. It was, tech nerdy people who still often thought of tech as the future. But tech as the future was more of a niche view back then that tech people shared, but most of the world didn't. But I was hanging around people who were not only tech people, but were thinking about the future. So these were futurists and science fiction fans. And in that world, there was a number of competing visions for the future and how tech people could work on that. So one of the things I love best about that world was this idea that you could have a vision for the future related to tech, and then you could just go make it. You didn't have to convince the world and have speeches and write books and, have a movement or anything. The idea was you would just go make something that represented your vision for the future. And if you made it well and you were right about its potential role, then you could be influential in making the world follow your tech vision. So I knew a number of different people who had different versions of the tech vision, and I was hanging around them. On one of the visions that I was most engaged with, which was the current World Wide Web, which we called hypertext publishing that way back then. There was a time before there was a web, but people didn't even imagine the web. And then some people did imagine the web, and we thought, wow, it would be great if we had the web. And then we were trying to make it happen. And then there were other people who were imagining future AI and even something called cryonics, where you freeze yourself now to save yourself for the future. I'm a cryonics customer. And among those people were the crypto people who their vision was a world of using cryptography to allow spaces of commerce and activity that would be protected from prying eyes and protected from government intrusion. And that was this initial vision of crypto. And those people paid attention to cryptography, math, and computer science. And at the time, people didn't have a good vision for how you can make a cryptographic money. There was some concepts, but they had flaws. And that's what I knew, is that they still had this vision. So I had some doubts about this vision. What they were imagining is you could just live your whole life in crypto and have cryptographic, relations with your landlord and your employers and everybody, and nobody would really know who you were because you would interact online through cryptographic, distancing, and you could be this cipher, unknown person who did all your things through crypto. That was their vision. And if that was true, then you could evade government regulation of what you did, and you could evade taxation even of what you did, because you had all these relations through crypto. That was their vision of the cypherpunks. And that was an exciting technology-driven vision. And Hal Finney and Nick Szabo and Tim May were some of the people who were pursuing that. Now, I got to say, of the people I know, Hal Finney is just the obvious choice to be Satoshi or a collaborator with Satoshi.
Okay.
He was just the competent guy. In a world of different kinds of people, you get to know different personalities and different styles. And some people talk a lot, but aren't that reliable. Some people have ideas, but aren't able to translate them into concrete technical things. And some people do more things and talk less. And Hal was the guy who was competent, understood his stuff, could be world class, would get things done, was organized, and didn't talk so much.
So in your opinion, if you had to pick someone to be Satoshi, you would say, based on your personal interactions with him, that it was Hal.
Right. He just fits the bill for what you need to be that sort of person and to make it work. He was very competent, diligent, organized, he didn't, and then he died soon after Bitcoin was released within a few years. And that's, of course, a very reasonable explanation for why Satoshi has resisted the temptation to spend his many billions now.
But do you think he was going onto those cypherpunk message boards and into those email threads and sending himself and replying to himself? Sending an email from Satoshi to Hal and then replying as Hal to Satoshi. Like, you think he kind of like did
That's not
that?
Crazy.
What?
That's not crazy.
It's not crazy.
Yeah.
You think he was kind of covering his tracks in that way?
Right.
Fascinating business.
That feels like a, standard operating procedure for a cypherpunk. Like they would do something like that, right?
I mean, I gotta say, I am a privacy enthusiast, Robin, and you might have noticed that I've covered up the top half of my face with a ball cap and sunglasses, the bottom half of my face with a beard.
Yep.
I love the idea of operating cryptographically. For whatever, I guess I love Bitcoin more than I love my own privacy because I have no online footprint, no social media. I've read books on how to make my online activities more private, and I do enjoy the thought of a money and a space where I can operate with privacy. Not necessarily because I have anything to hide, but you close the bathroom door when you go to the bathroom for a reason. It's just good to have privacy.
Right. And we are losing that. That is, long ago, when people thought about the future, one of the big things they thought about was that we would be losing privacy. And a lot of people were very animated by that idea. But in fact, what happened is that we just slowly gave people the opportunity to give up their privacy for modest gains, and they just consistently did that. And now here we are in a world where there's just a lot less privacy than there was back then, and people don't seem to mind that much. That's the biggest news about privacy. If you had asked people 30 years ago, how important is privacy? How much are you willing to sacrifice to keep it? They would have said, oh, it's really important. I'm willing to just give up so much to keep it. But that's not what they did. So this is one of the big examples in the world of a difference between what people say they want and what people actually choose when you offer them things. Pretty much everyone chose to give up their privacy. And now we're in a world where there is just vastly less privacy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you see that creating problems for us from an economic perspective?
The main issue is that this has allowed governments to be better able at repressing dissent. Governments around the world are now, in fact, better able to track and repress dissent, and they are more secure and stable. That's the world we live in now, compared to what people thought decades ago. Now, what most people care about for privacy is actually the people around them knowing things. They don't actually emotionally care that much about strangers far away knowing things about them. And that's mostly what we've achieved. That is, most people actually can't use the loss of privacy to find things about their friends and family. Somehow we've made it hard to do that. But big corporations, governments, all those sorts of things, they can find out lots about you. And most people don't seem to care.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So a loss of privacy leads to nation state stability because they can continue to operate along their political agenda by, finding and destroying dissent.
We've also seen the rise of sort of central levels of control over major communication media like Twitter or Facebook, etc. And that's we saw big effects of that, which are temporarily, I guess, being somewhat reversed under, say, the new regime ownership of Twitter. But still, I got to predict in the long run, this looks bad. That's not just loss of privacy. That's ability of central powers to shape, pop narratives and fashions about ideas and what people talk about. And that's just a fact of our centralized social media.
I feel like we took a step in the direction of more peer-to-peer conversation with the advent of social media. We moved away from 7 or 8,
mass media,
right?
Right.
But then
we thought of that initially as freedom. We thought, the authorities couldn't control our peer-to-peer communication. That was just wrong. Authorities can very much control our peer-to-peer communication, and they are.
Yes.
So we think about Bitcoin as the greatest money of all time. We focus on helping satillionaires stack their first sats because we just want to welcome them in. And over time, we believe they'll move on from us into the theme park, and they'll start exploring all these different areas and get to the point where they realize Bitcoin is going to change the world. And we're fully in that fix the money, fix the world camp. From your perspective because Chris and I are zealots. Let's just use the correct term. We are fully on fire with Bitcoin. We have our Chad Michael Saylor lightning bolt laser eyes exploding everywhere. I mean, we just can't get enough of this stuff. But for someone who is able to keep their cool and approach things academically, couched through the lens of data, human behavior, history, personal experience, do you see Bitcoin as this unstoppable force that will reshape the world, or is it merely a competing form of currency among currencies?
Well, I'd say the key distinguishing thing here is that there's a store of value that can be hidden, but that's in some sense still an open question. That is because the addresses on the blockchain are visible. You haven't switched to a zero knowledge proof version of crypto. Many people find it hard to successfully keep their crypto assets hidden today. And that's an open question. So basically, as a store of value, it's just another place you can store value, except for the fact that you might be able to keep things hidden there and then keep value stored. And, obviously all through history, people who collected a lot of resources wondered, how can I ensure that these resources stay under a change of government or hostile attackers, etc.? And they often buried coins in their yard or had a bag of jewels. And that enticed people to, of course, come in and steal their bag of jewels or bag of coins. And this is a new entry in that space. Now you just have to keep your right keys secret in the right ways. And then you can keep some crypto, the Bitcoins stored for a long time. And that's a way to ensure that you can keep some assets out of the hands of people who might want to grab them. But it's actually pretty hard to maintain this, as you know. That is, in the worst case, if somebody knows that you have a key and a way to get to it, all they have to do is physically grab you and torture you until you give up the coins that you have access to somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's still a way that Bitcoin is vulnerable. And there are some ways to try to deal with that. But again, that's the new thing that I would say Bitcoin represents, is a different way to store things in a way that makes it harder for people to steal them or take them.
So, is the answer to just not accumulate wealth so that a bad guy doesn't come and try to hit your kneecaps with a wrench? You know what I mean? Like I kind of struggle with that concept. Is it okay to get wealthy, or should we try to, bring up humanity in a more collective fashion, like a Star Trek Next Generation type Captain Jean-Luc? I mean, because you talked about science fiction, right? You talked about early 90s Silicon Valley, bunch of nerdy types, science fiction fans. When I think, because I'm a big science fiction fan as well, technically science fantasy, but when I think about the future, my hope is that we go full Jean-Luc Picard with it, and we solve the problems of energy and resources and calories. And we can just ask a machine for, Earl Grey tea hot, and boom, there it is. I mean, how many of these early 90s Silicon Valley types imagined a world where their technology allowed them to become very wealthy and then feared, kidnapping and torture? And how many of them envisioned a world where everyone gets better as a result of technology?
The world's accumulated many innovations over eons, but there's a number of innovations that we've accumulated that a lot of people don't like. And so some people's hope for the future is that we'll get rid of some of the innovations that we've had so far. And money is one of those, actually. There are people who hope money would go away, right? And there are people who hope large bureaucratic organizations will go away. That's another thing people just don't like in our world. And they're kind of hoping the future will just push that aside. My general position is that most of the innovations that we've acquired and have lasted for a while are just going to last pretty much forever. Law will retain, war will continue, language will continue, money will continue, trade will continue, and so wealth will continue. And I think you kind of have to accept that whatever things about these things you don't like, you're going to have to suck it up because they're going to last. I got to say, I can't really imagine a world of the future where they don't have wealth and they don't have something like money, and that there isn't a lot of inequality in wealth.
Right. I mean, from an economic perspective, can you get along without money in some kind of future world, or are we always going to feel like our hard work compared to someone else's laziness should allow us to accumulate units that can be used to further ourselves, where the less productive individual gets less units and, therefore doesn't have as much as us? Like, is that kind of like is that technology of money just going to be something that needs to stick around for centuries and maybe even millennia to come?
Fundamentally, humans are relatively plastic. That is, we can change ourselves to live in a really wide range of worlds, including a wide range of social worlds. And that's been our superpower. The reason why humans have been able to go from what we were a million years ago to what we are now is this ability to change. But a thing that happens across that trajectory is alienation. That is, it's true that we are able to change, but we also notice the change. And we notice the fact that the world we're in isn't the world we came from. And we kind of feel more at home in the world we came from. And that often creates these hopes that somehow we can go back to the world we came from in some way, that some of the parts of our world we're not so happy with will somehow be able to push aside and return to the jungle, the savannah, the nice, comfortable world of a small group of people who've known each other all their lives, wandering through the forest, picking up things and being friends for their life. I just think that's just not going to happen. We are just going to continually go farther and farther from where we came from. And we were going to continually have to accumulate more and more ways in which our world has things that our ancestors didn't have that we're getting used to and figuring out how to deal with, and are alien from the point of view of the world we came from. That's just what it is to be a human heading off into the future.
What's your vision of the world in 2138 when the last Bitcoin will have been issued?
Okay, so I've been a futurist for a while, and I've written a lot of future things, and I even have this book I'll pitch here, The Age of M, Work, Love, and Life When Robots Rule the Earth. about a certain kind of AI.
Okay.
And how it changes everything. And so for most of my life, I have been expecting rapid, dramatic technical changes and social changes as a result. And that's been my vision of the future for a while. And I have to admit, in the last year or so, I have to eat that a bit in the sense that I'm now substantially worried that our fertility fall is going to continue. And if it continues long enough, then our economy will peak and actually start to fall. And as the economy falls, innovation will grind to a halt. And we could have this several century period of decline wherein there isn't much technical improvement or innovation. And then only centuries later, a revival with some, perhaps now small part, having grown and defied the rest of culture, grows up and again revives technology and growth. So in that vision, what happens in a few centuries when Bitcoin reaches its limits is there are still a lot of people in the world holding stuff in the form of Bitcoin. And the world hasn't, radically done all the technology change that many of us hoped would happen in the near future. That's a plot that is after a decline. It's something that retains. So a big question about a lot of technology in this decline is what stuff will we lose and what stuff will we keep? And Bitcoin isn't obvious, but it's plausible we could keep it. But we would keep it on, special computers that we had inherited for a long time. So a thing to notice about computer hardware is that it's intrinsically quite durable, if only you would arrange it that way. The reason we don't tend to make it very durable is because technology is increasing so fast that, computer hardware from 2 years ago is maybe only half as, useful as computer hardware now. So there's not that much point in making it really durable. But in a declining economy where innovation has stopped, all of a sudden it will make a lot more sense to make a generation of very durable hardware. But then in a shrinking economy, there might not be that much point in making a new generation, a next set of very durable hardware. We might just have as much durable hardware as we need, and then we might just stop making computers for a long time. We'd still use the old durable ones, but as the economy shrinks, we wouldn't make more. And so we'd be in this era a century later where we're using all these computers nobody knows how to make anymore, but they're still there, and we do things like hold Bitcoin in them. And that's part of this legacy world of inheriting things you don't know how to make anymore, but that still matter a lot to your world.
Holy smokes. Okay. Robin is a hard yes for me. Let me get this straight. You wrote a book on how AI and robots will become important to us in the future. But your vision of the future is in fact endangered by the fact that we're not having enough babies?
Absolutely.
Whoa! So the centuries to come with AI and robots is endangered by the fact that we may not have enough humans to get us to where you're trying to go.
Sadly.
And you have a scenario where Chris and I are looking at Bitcoin as the hardest money ever created or discovered by Satoshi, who might be Hal Finney. Love that. Maybe. But we haven't accounted for the fact that you might get to a place where the phrase, dude, you're getting a Dell, has a whole new meaning because it's a holy relic passed down through the generations. And, the 12th Arthur Pelto is like, I am ready to accept the compact laptop. You know what I mean? Like COMPAQ, like the old, 10-pound laptop. And it's like, boo boo, and you're, it's just this absolutely, it would almost be like inheriting an abacus today that somehow stores your wealth on it. You know what I mean? Absolutely fascinating business, Robin. Holy smokes.
Right. We have relics today, but they don't actually do much. But so a world of relics that are powerful, magical instruments that do things that nobody can do in other ways than through the relics, that's a pretty dramatic scenario.
So we ask each of our guests, Robin, if they'd be willing to come back on the show in 9 months to give us an update on their Bitcoin baby. So would you be willing to come back on the show, tell us more about your progress, and, let me scry further into the future by directly leveraging your mind?
Happy to talk again.
Yes. Okay. So, Robin, we're going to make you an offer for coming on the show here today. But before we do, we are going to take a brain break here and try some Ithaca hummus. Can you remember the flavor that you chose?
I think I chose plain.
Yeah, boy. My favorite flavor is classic Ithaca hummus.
Yeah, I like hummus.
Yeah. Now, had you ever heard of Ithaca hummus before this show?
Not heard of it, and I still haven't tasted it, I guess.
And where are you? I guess in broad strokes.
I'm in the DC area here.
In DC. Okay. Where can Robin get?
So yeah, Whole Foods, Harris Teeter.
Okay.
Let's see. You've got Wegmans there. Obviously, that'd be probably one of the best places.
Mm-hmm. Wegmans is right down the road.
Fantastic.
So next time you're doing your groceries, pick up some of this classic, try it, and then I want you to come back to the comments of your Sat Chats video and tell everybody what you thought about it. Does that sound good?
I'll try to remember.
All right. I'll serve as your taste buds here today. Here we go.
Cheers. Every time.
I gotta say that hummus is a food that's just grown on me over my lifetime. I mean, especially you look at it and say, well, that's just so simple. How could that be interesting? But it's actually very good.
It is.
Yeah, we want you to try some of this because the classic, that's my favorite flavor. It's just exploding with hummus flavor. What's that like Greek Plato? It's like bursting with platonic hummus flavor.
Essence.
Do you know what I mean, Robert? It's like the ideal, the philosophic ideal of hummus is in that tub right there.
Hummus.
Woo! So there's a number of foods like this where people tend to add flavors to it. And in those cases, I tend to like the original flavor without the things added. Mm-hmm. I'm more of a essentials guy. I want the basic version. I don't need to add stuff.
I'm the same way. Favorite flavor of ice cream is vanilla.
Absolutely.
Favorite cookie is chocolate chip. Favorite flavor of Ithaca hummus is classic. So Ithaca hummus, buy the dip. Let's make Robin his offer.
All right, Robin. So
what is this?
We truly appreciate your time here today with us. We believe in value for value here on Sat Chat. So we are going to offer you your choice of this $50 bill, $50 US dollars, or $50 in Bitcoin, which I'm going to calculate using the Clark Moody Bitcoin dashboard right behind me. The exchange rate of Bitcoin right now is $85,760 US dollars for one Bitcoin, which is equivalent to 1,166 Satoshis per dollar. So I'm going to multiply that by 50 and get 58,300 Satoshis, or $50.
I got to say that I'm just low transaction cost guy. I'd rather take the cash. If it was a low transaction cost way to take the Bitcoin and just leave it there, I would do that. But that's just a lot of management for me.
Okay. So the cash for Robin, no need to keep a holy laptop relic around to pass this thing down. By the way, it won't even make it to the point where you pass it down. It's already melting. But we will shoot that cash your way. So Robin, you are, let's see here. You are number 43 for us on the show. 39 guests have chosen the Sats. You are now guest number 4 to
All right. Well,
choose the cash.
I like to be contrarian sometimes, so I guess that's okay.
You're being contrarian as far as we're concerned, but you know what? We are the Bitcoin Welcome Center, and for those who aren't, ready for that journey, it's okay. We've still got bathrooms,
Right.
we've got juice, we've got some brochures, and then we'll just, you can get back on the road
Right.
and keep rolling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all good.
Yep.
Right.
So
It's just transaction costs for me, whether I am ready to sort of take on the whole thing. So
Maybe you will be in 9 months when we see you again.
yeah.
maybe.
All right. So if you made it this far, give us your value for our value. Smash the like and subscribe on YouTube. Do not be subscriber number 1001. Make sure you are part of the first 999 plus one to become a Satillionaire with us so that you have your chance of winning 1 million sats as part of our giveaway. 5 stars also on Spotify, engage on Apple Podcasts if at all possible. And we will also unlock that live show Friday morning at 10 a.m. Robin will be in the chat with us live, making it clear that we need to spend some time with our wives. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's get in there, dude.
Yeah.
Help Robin's vision come true. And hit us with the title of your book one more time, Robin, and let us know where we should go to engage with you online.
The Age of M is the book, and I'm on Twitter at Robin Hanson. I have a website, hanson.gmu.edu. Those are all ways to find me. Or you can just type in my name and Google it, search it, and you'll find lots of things.
And is Hanson spelled Hanson or HANS?
Yes, HANSON.
Okay, so hanson.gmu.edu. All right. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. Remember, Sat Chat is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Also, our guests' futuristic views are their own. We'll see you on the next one.